Well, hello everybody, and we're back again. So it's 2021, and because of that, we're just talking before the call about, what do we call it now? We were calling it 2020 Insights, maybe, don't know, a bit of feedback from you guys possibly, but that to me sounds like we're looking backwards, and we're not, we're looking forward. So from today, we're going to call this Cloud 2020 Insight, because this is about the vision. We're hoping 2020 Insight is about looking more clearly at some of the things that get a bit complicated. And particularly today, I think, Ian, we want to talk about SMBs, hints and tips. Is Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform, is it really something for SMBs to think about? Or are they SMCs now? Or they were SMEs, I think, weren't they? We're very old. We go back a long way.
Yeah, I think you're going about the definition is fascinating actually. SME, SMB, SMC. Well, SMB, small to medium-sized businesses. SME, small to medium-sized enterprises. Those were very much definitions, particularly around, dare I say it, the EU or what have you. So you actually turning over less than 25 million, less than 250 employees, or whatever it was. No, less than 5 million, I think it was, to be an SMB and therefore qualify for certain promotions and what have you. But in Microsoft terms now, it's SMC, so small, medium, and corporate. Everything other than enterprise. And enterprise, 1,000 seats and beyond.
Okay.
But yeah, the question is what we do appropriate to SMC? And I argue really strongly with yes. And in fact, there's a really good argument for saying, if you want to punch above your weight, if you want to really multiply the impact of your smaller team, the non-enterprise team, then engage with these tools because you really, really can. And I want to give a shout out to a company that we work with very closely, Solgari, as an example. Not a huge company, but I can't tell you how their reach goes. They have a global reach. They have a really high profile. Not just with Microsoft and resellers like us, but with their clients as well. And they do it through really good use of Microsoft Dynamics Marketing, Microsoft Sales, and their own product. And that's a classic example of an SMB looking like an enterprise corporation. Incredible.
It's almost as though the products we're talking about, so Dynamics 365 sales, marketing, field service, and customer service, allow you to have the corporate qualities, the enterprise qualities within your organization, and whilst still actually being a fairly small team, punching above your weight, as we were talking earlier. And I think that we're even looking at some of the pricing coming more into play with regards to that, with things like sales professional licenses, Dynamics 365 sales professional, Dynamics 365 customer service, for example. And I suppose if I were an SMB, and I used to be, I would be looking at these products and saying, you know, thousands of seats, that's never going to be me. That isn't where I want to go personally, business-wise, commercially. But the idea of becoming more able to be proactive, talk to my customers more proactively, with more intelligence as well, and to make sure that my team, and particularly now, time of COVID, we're all dispersed, we work separately, independently, so having this central position for something, for all of our data and all of our processes really begins to make sense. So I guess my question to you, Ian, would be, so are there businesses out there, organizations out there, we know that they would benefit, but are there businesses out there that are interested in providing these services to SMBs, providing Dynamics 365 and Power Platform to SMBs?
Well, absolutely, and I think, I mean, this has been challenged for a while now, and I do remember back to I think about 4 or 5 years ago now, and this is no joke. Microsoft flew me to Seattle for the day to present to the SMB, as it was then, summit. And I was given half an hour, and my exam question was, please explain to the audience how you're selling an enterprise level product, like, as it was then, CRM Online, SMBs. And I said, well, it's quite simple, really. One is we don't scare them. So we don't talk about enterprise level products. We talk about what their issues are. And with most SMBs, the first issue we come up against is sales productivity. If you can put money on the bottom line, you get their attention. Yeah. And what we did was we took the sales platform, and bear in mind, there wasn't a sales professional then. They were paying the full price for the whole of the suite. You got everything in those days. Yeah. Now you can just buy sales enterprise or sales professional. And we basically focused it on the needs of an SMB, which is some clear metrics about what their cash flow was looking at, weighted revenue, where their sales were, where the leads and opportunities were. So they missed nothing. They didn't lose any leads, what have you. And I said, if you do that, I mean, this isn't rocket science. It's about looking at a customer's pain points and then giving them something to manage that process with, and visibility. And that's exactly what we did. And that is as true now as it was then. In fact, it's even more true now. And I think the other side of it is that the market is respecting that as well. So I'll give you a classic example. Selling into local government and or the government, regional government, what have you. Once upon a time, you had to be a big organisation, and you had to have fill all this criteria about the accounts the last 5 years and what have you. No, now there is much more acceptance of bringing in smaller and potentially local suppliers to meet those needs. So how do you convince them of that? You prove you've got good systems in place to manage the process you're going to work with them on. So maybe that's project management or customer services or field services, whatever it is. And if you've got those systems in place, then you're in a good place. Yeah. But I think also by putting these systems in place, you safeguard your business and you actually add value to your business, because everyone's looking at your business saying, well, how are you going to manage that? What happens if you have a bad day? We don't have bad days. We don't have bad days. You've got the systems behind us to make sure we don't get in that situation. Yeah. I'll give an example. There was one company I worked with, and they had, when we went in there to have a look, they had 211 spreadsheets operating the business. And it was all run off local servers and stuff like that. The whole thing was like a house of cards. If something failed one day, like their access database as well, then the whole company came to a grinding halt. And you're talking about nearly 400 people. And you think you've got to spend on infrastructure to put the system in place to make it work, But coming back to your original question, sorry, I'm heading off down a rabbit warren.
No, it's fascinating, really.
Is this appropriate to say to SMC customers to engage with this sort of platform? Absolutely. Are the people out there to do it? Absolutely. We've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, and we continuously enjoy engaging with SMBs and seeing the impact that can happen in literally a few weeks.
I think it's helpful also in that we are in an SMB market. We're both experienced business owners of an SMB. We understand the pain points and the challenges and the sleepless nights and the worrying about the bottom line and all of that stuff. And we really do get where that challenge is for these organizations. And I think that you can't place a value on that kind of level of experience and empathic hearing in a commercial marketplace. But I think the other thing to say here is that we're talking about maybe that some enterprise organizations may have just a department that needs something, and in that respect they're like an SMB, and so I think it really it's a failure of imagination really to think that this product can't move into those areas. And the other thing I'd say about it is increasingly we're seeing Power Apps, and really I think this is a topic for another day, but I think eventually we'll stop talking about Dynamics 365 and we'll just talk about the Power Platform. Dynamics 365 will be part of that when we're talking about it, but I think that probably is for another day.
Yeah. I think there's 2 points I should make, because I know we're getting towards the end of our time now, but James Phillips, who is the president of the Business Applications Group, I was listening to him last night, and he was talking about we are no longer an applications organisation, we are a platform organisation. And I think that's really important. They provide the platform, people like us then implement on that platform. And that's very much back to your point about, we'll stop talking about dynamics, talk about the Power Platform. Absolutely. I think going back slightly again as well, absolutely small and medium-sized enterprises and corporate-sized enterprises can not only take advantage of these great tools and great platforms, they almost need to these days, but they have to understand they need to put the time in. Now, in those type of organisations, everyone's busy. There's no spare capacity. You shouldn't be, otherwise you're not doing it right. But and we know that ourselves. You need to put the effort in. So we're doing a whole lot of the work on marketing at the moment. We need to put time in to create those customer journeys, to create the templates, to look at the scoring models, and that means you've got to take time out to do that. But when you do, the rewards are multiplied. And so, you do need to spend, as we said this morning, you need to spend time working on the business as well as spending time working in the business. And I think if you add that to the tools that are available, there's a huge opportunity out there.
I agree. And I think we've come to the end of our time here, Ian, but obviously we've got some topics coming up. We've got our own launch coming up of a product specifically for SMBs, which we're all very excited about, and we'll just kind of tease around that. But if the license fee is potentially per user of a Dynamics 365 enterprise license, if that is a bit of a stumbling block, we may have the answer for you. So yeah, stay tuned, and we'll look forward to talking to everybody again next week. Thank you.
So, thanks everyone.